Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Dr. Stephen Cabral. Dr. Cabral has more than 20 years in the natural health field, and he has his doctorate degree in naturopathy. He is the founder and CEO of EquiLife, a health and wellness company that offers at-home lab testing, coaching calls with a certified health coach, and over 125 supplements and protocols. Today, we talk about my results that Dr. Cabral's company did, analyzing my hair to check for minerals as well as heavy metals. The details were shocking. I already ordered a detox kit so I can get the heavy metals out of my body. So let's go and say hello to Dr. Cabral. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Sleep is completely underrated, and so many women our age struggle with a really solid night's sleep. You want to know how I fixed it for me? Well, one of the things I did was I got a chili pad because I was always too hot and I'd be like tangled up in my covers, kicking them off, pulling them on. I could never find that sweet spot temperature, you know, the whole Goldilocks thing, too hot, too cold. And then I got a chili pad. My husband has his own control. I have mine, so I keep mine way cooler than he likes it. I'm never overly hot anymore. It is fabulous. And I even use it all winter long because you can adjust the thermostat any way you like. And I really love the white noise, the little hum that it plays. So the Chili Pad company, which is called Chili Sleep, has lots of amazing new products. They have pillows, bed sheets, weighted blankets, and the old-fashioned mattress protector chili pad that I have. It is amazing. So for a special discount price, head on over to bit.ly/chillsleep, CHILLSLEEP, and you will be thanking me later. Hey, Dr. Cabral, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Appreciate you having me here today and being able to connect with your community. Thanks so much.
Well, I'm excited to chat with you. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a board certified doctor of naturopathy and actually got into this field though because of my own health-based issues. So like a lot of natural health-based practitioners, oftentimes you go through your own hardship where, you know, in some way, conventional medicine let you down. And it's not to say conventional medicine isn't amazing and they can't help in a lot of life-saving acute-based treatments. But the issue is that if you have a chronic health condition, there's very little that they can do for you except try to mask the symptoms of what you're suffering from with pharmaceuticals. And so I was the same way. At 17 years old, I had an autoimmune issue. I had Addison's disease, which is the inability to produce cortisol. So I felt like I had flu-like symptoms all the time. I was groggy, could never really wake up. I had mast cell issues, so terrible allergies and hives and all of those things, as well as type 2 diabetes. I couldn't regulate my blood sugar, mainly because of Addison's. And so my immune system was a wreck. I had massive amounts of inflammation. At 17 years old, I already felt like I was 90 years old. And so after going to over 24 different specialists in conventional medicine, there was very little that they could do for me. And so that is when, in the 1990s, later 90s, I started to explore what else might be out there. For the very first time, I'd never heard of things such as functional medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or traditional Chinese medicine. But I was very skeptical, but I tried to keep an open mind. And over time, that is how I got into this field. And I'm happy to say that my journey was a long one. It doesn't have to be for other people. Because there's much more sharing of information. But now I no longer have any of those diseases. I'm completely disease-free. And I feel stronger now than I have than ever.
Beautiful. So what did they determine was the root cause? Like, why did all this affect you at 17?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's like a lot of things. I talk about there's a genetic susceptibility, then there's the lifestyle. So doing things that are not proper for your body. And there is something called bioindividuality. So what may work for me, what may not work for you. And a lot of that has to do with the wrong foods. I was eating fairly poorly because I was lean and into athletics and all that, I thought I could put anything in my body and it didn't matter. So I was, drinking Coca-Cola and different types of iced tea. I was eating Fruity Pebbles and things like that in the morning, and they start to catch up with you. And then the other factor is, so we've got the genetics, we have the lifestyle, but there's typically a triggering event. And for me, I was put on antibiotics at the age of 14 through 17 years old for skin issues. So my dermatologist gave me amoxicillin. So I swallowed somewhere around 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin. I was taking them twice a day for 3 years, and I had already taken them 5-6 times a year for childhood-based conditions. So my gut microbiome was absolutely devastated. I had candida overgrowth, I had SIBO, and I had H. pylori with massive intestinal permeability. So that is what ended up really dysregulating my immune system. And then I ended up with the rheumatoid arthritis, et cetera.
So you were able to reverse all of it?
100%. So not only was I able to reverse something which is said you're not able to reverse, which is something like an autoimmune issue, and especially primary Addison's disease, I was. And I have strong cortisol levels now, strong hormone levels. I'm 45 years old now, so we're far removed. And it's like every year I seem to have more and more energy, more and more vitality in my body. And it's because I think that there is something called the compound effect. And if you continue to do the proper things for your body month after month, it compounds over time. And you can either then lead to dis-ease in the body, or you can lead to abundant health. And that's really what I work towards now.
Fabulous. How long did it take you to fully recover?
Well, it took me 9.5 years, I tell people, to find the right mentor. And it's amazing when you find the right mentor, what happens in 6 months. So 9.5 years to learn what didn't work. Some things work, don't get me wrong. But I relapsed a lot. I would get well, relapse, get well, relapse. And I had pneumonia 5 out of 6 winters in my 20s. It was very, very challenging. And then around 27 years old, I met Dr. Margaret Pete, who was my mentor. She introduced me to at-home lab testing combined with the doses of Ayurveda, or your genetics, essentially, kind of like your phenotype. And with that, really the combination of naturopathy and putting all that together, I was better within 6 months. And so it was pretty remarkable. Now, better means no more disease state, but I continued to, of course, get healthier every year after that.
Nice. So you did a combo of Ayurveda and other treatment. Did you get that?
We call it integrative health now. And so basically I teach what's called at the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, and it's 7 different modalities. So it's Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, functional medicine, traditional naturopathy, bioregulatory medicine, Eastern based philosophy, and then herbalism in there as well. And so when you look at that, because I did internships all over the world. So I did a little over 2,300 hours of internships, and I studied in India and Sri Lanka and China and Europe and the US. And what I realized was that all of the different modalities and clinics help people, but not every single person, every single time. And it's because you can't make the patient or the wellness client fit into one modality. You need to be able to give the right protocol to the right person at the right time. And so that's where this integrative approach comes in, saying no one is better than the other. You need to know what, and typically it's multiple modalities at the same time. So we like to start with at-home lab testing and then allow that to show us what are the toxicities an individual has and what are their deficiencies.
Okay, so what types of things are you testing at home?
So we call it the Big 5 lab tests. That's what we prefer to run with every individual. And it looks at hormones. So everything from the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, testosterone. It looks at cortisol throughout the day. This is a saliva test. It looks at your thyroid. That's a blood spot test, your insulin, blood sugar levels. That's really important for your metabolism and anti-aging. Then we look at your gut testing. So everything from yeast overgrowth to bacterial overgrowth. And then we're looking at your vitamin levels, your mineral levels, heavy metals, and your omega-3s and food sensitivities for basically inflammation. So we love starting there. However, some people start with our starter kit or our minerals and metals test, which looks at all the minerals and stress levels in the body, depletion, oftentimes as an adult, as well as heavy metals. And that's a great place to get started to give you a quick snapshot. And so these are all, they're easy to run. And it's why it's growing so quickly as a field. It started in the mid 90s, late 90s, right when I was getting into it, meaning like myself as a patient. But now you'll see, because people don't want to have their blood drawn. It's not their favorite thing to do by any means, but they're okay with a saliva sample, a urine sample, a hair sample, a couple blood drops from the finger, like you're testing blood sugar. And that gives you an array of data. And so that's what we try to help people with.
How do you test the microbiome?
So the microbiome can be done in, well, two ways. So the first is urine, and we look at that simply from what is being produced from bacteria or from yeast, if that makes sense. So those things then come into the bloodstream. The bloodstream is then filtered by the kidneys, and that comes out as excretion through the urine. So we look at that, and that's really good. It's actually the best at looking for mycotoxins, for mold. It's best at looking for yeast or fungal-based markers and certain other byproducts from Clostridia bacteria in the gut. So that's a nice one. That's easy. Then the one that's going to give you the greatest data in terms of your gut microbiome is going to be a stool test. That's not part of the big five, but that's an add-on for people with digestive issues. Or if anybody has an autoimmune issue, you really need to run that bacteria and parasite stool test. So Equalife, so you have to go through a company to run these. It has to be run by a doctor. So what we do is we just open source it. That's all. So we get together the best labs. We don't have any favorites. We say, oh, you're the best at stool testing. You're the best at hormones. You're the best at food sensitivity testing. We bring them all into our practice, and then we ship those out to 27 countries around the world. And the bacteria and parasite stool test, as of just about 5 years ago, can actually be shipped internationally as well. And that tests for parasites, H. pylori, and bacteria. It doesn't do a great job of testing for yeast. It will. The Candida vitamins metabolism test does a better job.
So I know everybody always asks this question because I came from the dental field, but what about insurance? Does insurance cover any of this?
It does not, because it's non-diagnostic. And so if you want to be diagnosed for any type of disease, it's almost exclusively done with your primary care physician or specialist as a licensed medical doctor, and it's done through blood work alone. That is kind of the metric for that. What we do is we look for underlying root cause issues that causes something like what I had: rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, Addison's disease, et cetera. So since we're not diagnosing disease, it is not, you don't put it in ICD-4 or used to be ICD-8, 9 codes, and that is why.
It just makes no sense to me, because you guys are doing things to get out ahead of the disease. So, hopefully catching issues before they present as a, harmful illness, and they don't cover that stuff. It's just sad to me that we allow that to be the case, No,
and we save people tens to 20 of thousands of dollars in premiums every year from medications and potentially surgeries, et cetera. And so it's not, insurance is starting to look at it for certain things. But no, a lot of people can get reimbursed for their HSA, flex spend account, et cetera. But you're right. It is sad, because not only is it preventative, it's also reversal of a lot of these issues that are said to have no cure. You can only, if you have an autoimmune issue, you're taking a biological drug, which kind of shuts down the immune system. If you have high cholesterol, you're taking statins. If you're taking blood pressure medication, or you have blood pressure issues, you're taking a beta blocker, calcium, so you're looking at all of these different things, and we can help people get off of those. And so, maybe that is why they're not, covered by insurance. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that has something to do with it. I mean, years ago, years before I understood the whole pharmaceutical mafia presence, my dad had heart disease, so I wanted to get tested for homocysteine, and that wasn't something that insurance would approve of. But because I specifically requested it, and my dad had his conditions, they approved it. And I asked why, and they said because there's no drug to treat it. And I'm like, okay, well, B vitamins help, I believe. But anyway, I digress. So you healed yourself, and then did you go to med school after that? Is that
so I
when you
didn't go
went
to medical school. I'm a board certified doctor of naturopathy. So I went to naturopathic school, and that enabled me. So the difference, if people want to know the difference, the first 2 years, you study all of your ologies, I always call it, your physiology, your oncology, your toxicology. You learn how the human body works, and you learn about disease pathology. That basically means like, how does disease manifest in the body? And then as a medical doctor, you go on to then study pharmacology, which is the treatment of those diseases with pharmaceutical-based drugs. And then, of course, if you're going to be a surgeon or something else, that's extra after school. You go into a specific residency for those things. For naturopathy, what you do is you study same diseases, okay, but how do they manifest? So you go through underlying root cause, and then you also look at how do we help these things naturally? Vitamins, minerals, herbs, but also lifestyle. What about sauna and sweating? What about breath work? What about meditation? So we learn about all of those things. And then your internships are in your field study as well.
That's more like it. And I believe that's the way it used to be, like 100 years ago. That's the way it used to be. So I just did my sauna this morning.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
so
it should be a part of everyone's routine, 4 to 5 days a week. There's no pharmaceutical drug that could come close to a sauna. And it seems kind of ridiculous saying that, and I understand it, but it reduces cardiovascular death by over 63%. And it reduces all-cause mortality by about 42%. That means like every reason you could possibly die, it reduces that by 42% from just 19 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week. Right? There's no drug like that in the world. There's also no food like that in the world that I know of. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I love my sauna. Even in the summer, it just makes you feel good. And it's a good time to go inward as well, Mm-hmm. So what do you find that you see most people for? Is there any common reason people would want to come see you? Is it autoimmune, or what do you see a lot of in your office?
Well, most doctors of naturopathy or functional medicine practitioners, not like a functional medicine is a strange term now. It used to mean like a truly holistic practice, but now it's come in, get your hormones tested, and then walk out with hormone replacement therapy. And there's a time and place, but that's not that's a different type of medicine, and that's biologic based hormone treatment. That's not really kind of a holistic practice. What we do is a general practice that help children from basically 3 years old through 100 plus years old with underlying root cause issues. That means you can come in with anything, because we're not treating the disease. So to me, it doesn't matter if you have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus or Hashimoto's or any other autoimmune issue like psoriasis, etc. It doesn't matter. I'm literally not treating that disease. I'm looking at what caused this in the first place. And I'm able to do that by testing your heavy metals, all the 4 different major issues that go wrong in the gut. I'm looking at your food, your diet. I'm looking at your sleep. I'm looking at your stress. And I've open sourced this protocol. It's called the de-stress protocol. I wrote about it in a book called The Rain Barrel Effect. And it's diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest. That's your sleep protocols. Emotional balance, which is way overlooked because I'll talk about this, 2 parts to basically getting sick for most people. Then there's scientifically backed supplements. Supplements actually do move the needle for a lot of people. You don't want to do mega doses, but tremendous at helping to push the body back into balance. And then there's the success mindset. So but I will tell you that out of all the things we've seen, if you only enabled me or allowed me to work on two things, it would be gut-based issues that have happened over a lifetime, from antibiotic use, alcohol, birth control, et cetera, and heavy metals, as well as stress, psychological stress, because your psychology affects your physiology, everything from your hormones to your immune system to your digestive system. So if I could only work on two, I'd work on those two, and people would see probably 90% of the results that they were looking for.
Really? Wow, that's interesting. Do you find that most stressed is self-induced?
Well, it's hard to argue with that, simply because we all view the world through our own lens and frame, right? And so I might see the world differently than you see the world, and we might agree on certain things, not agree on certain things. And I've been through a lot in my life. I had to grow up really fast, 17 years old, told that couldn't figure out what's wrong with me, immune system shutting down. Even when I was diagnosed, people don't typically live a very long life with Addison's disease. So you grow up really quick. And so for me, challenges and things like this in my life now that I'm healthy, I view them differently because I have a great sense of gratitude and I have perspective. Like, I was way worse. I literally had no energy, no ambition or drive in life because I had massive brain fog and just flu-like symptoms all the time. So now I don't have that. And when things come up, well, problems don't seem as big. And so, yes, stress is self-induced, but hard to tell that to people because it is through our own subconscious and conscious mind.
But I love how you said gratitude, because I feel like that is a huge help to all of us when we are in gratitude, no matter how small the item that we're being grateful. Like today, there's blue sky. I am very grateful for that. So that's
Absolutely
fun. So the big 5 tests that you run, do you know approximately how much we're talking that would cost an individual if they said, okay, I want to do these tests to get started?
Yeah, it's typically anywhere from $12.99 to $14.99 for those big 5 labs, just depending if there's anything going on, at Equalife. Those are around $2,200 if priced individually. What we do is we try to bundle them together. We run tens of thousands of labs, probably close to 100,000 labs a year. And so for us, working with all the major labs, we just get them at a little bigger of a discount than other people. That's all. But the labs can be run anywhere. I like to tell people that we don't have to be your only source at Equalife. You can work with an integrative health practitioner. You can work with a licensed naturopathic doctor that's local to you. And you just want to make sure that they are able to help you. And you can just set up a consultation, or you can email them and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Are you able to help me? These are the labs I'm looking to run. And they're able to do that. What we do is I had two practices in Boston, Massachusetts, and I had those for a very long period of time, all the way till 2019, where our practice was then more virtual than it was in person. And we saw over 250,000 people, and I saw the value to being able to work with anyone, anywhere over video chat. And so I really doubled down on that, saying, that would be amazing if that was the future of health. And then, a year and a half later, it turned out that I didn't do that on purpose, that's where the whole world was going anyways. I just kind of saw how convenient it was, and that I could work with, we work with people in Australia, totally different time zone all the time, and it works great. And you can read their labs. Like we have your lab here today. We're able to go through it through just the power of the internet. That's really it. And it's pretty amazing because there's no difference between me reading your lab right now versus you sitting beside me. There's no difference.
And as a patient, it's so much more convenient. Like I would prefer that than having to drive into town,
Yes.
So
and your appointment always starts on time. That's the nice thing, right? You go to your doctor, you're in a half hour. You need to leave yourself like 3 or 4 hours just to be at a 15-minute visit for your doctor. And so one of the nice things is with virtual, you keep things on time.
Cool. So do you have my labs right in front of you? I'm curious to see how I ranked.
I do. So I have your minerals and metals test. That's the hair tissue mineral analysis. And so what we do is, and I always ask people, I just just got your results right now. So there's like no prep ahead of time. Typically, we would do a consultation or we'd learn a little bit more about you. But that's okay. I'm actually going to take you through it, and then you can kind of see what's clicking, what's not clicking, and we can talk more about it in terms of recommendations. But what we do is you take a few snips of hair underneath the back of the hair so nobody sees that it's missing, and we look for 1.5 inches of hair closest to the scalp. Your hair grows at about 0.5 inch per month. So if you want to see the most recent data for your body, you're looking at that last 1.5 inches. For men, I have short hair, so I'm only going to get the last 30 days worth. That's no problem at all. It's very accurate. And so one of the reasons why this is so accurate is that the hair is a protein. And when you excrete, like you would excrete through your skin, it's captured in that protein, which actually was in the follicle in the bulb below your skin. So they use this testing for in NASA, they use it for the FBI, they use it for certain drug testing, they use it in fertility based tests right now to look at heavy metals. And so it's very, very accurate because all they're doing is taking your hair, burning it to an ash, just like you would for, like, let's say a lemon. I always give that analogy. If you burn a lemon to an ash and you analyze the ash, you can tell a lemon is very high in potassium. It's one of the highest potassium foods. We know that because we burn it and we analyze the ash. We're doing the same thing with the hair. So these are not going to be the same as your blood work. We're looking at excretion, what was used, almost like urine. It's what was used, not what's in the blood at that moment in time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Yep. So the way that we read this is we go over your 4 electrolyte levels first: calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And everything in the body is important to know this. Everything in the body has a partner. This is one of the fundamental things that I learned from my mentor. And when you learn it, you can't unlearn it, and it is what's going to help you rebalance your body. Everything has a partner. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's a lot more complicated, but in traditional Chinese medicine, you can see it as the yin-yang symbol, right? And that is that the light balances the dark. You can look at it however you want. Well, in the body, magnesium balances calcium. Too much calcium, not enough magnesium, higher level of sympathetic nervous system dominance. Higher sodium, lower potassium, same thing. Zinc and copper need to be in balance. So everything has its partner in the body, which also then enables us, hey, if one's too high, we know how to push it back down. All right. So, and interrupt me.
I bet I can guess. I can guess that my magnesium is higher than my calcium and my sodium is higher than my potassium.
Your magnesium is higher than your calcium and your sodium is higher than your potassium?
That's a guess.
All right. Well, tell me why you guessed that.
Because I am dairy free. I don't do dairy right now. And I take 500 milligrams of magnesium before bed because I'm an athlete and I get cramps in my calves if I don't. It helps me sleep. So that's that one. And I don't eat potatoes or bananas. I really don't know how I would be getting potassium at this point, but I do lemons. I didn't know lemons were high in potassium. So, but I do love I make a combo salt with 3 different types of salt, and I put salt on my eggs and avocado and, most other things. So that's my guess.
All right. Well, you are correct. However, when we're looking at the nervous system, when we're looking at the electrolytes, it's actually based on the nervous system, not just the foods you're taking in. So you're correct. And the magnesium actually does make a difference. So let's talk about that. So your calcium is high on your minerals and metals test. But remember, everything is a ratio. So it's a 105. Ideal is between about 30 and 60. And so it's a 105. So it's quite high, which shows higher sympathetic nervous system stress, often found in athletes and entrepreneurs or new moms. A lot of stress, right? And so, but the difference is your magnesium is a 20. Ideal magnesium is between a 4 and a 10. So you can see a 20 is high. Now that's less than calcium, but your body's meant to have more calcium than magnesium. So there's actually a ratio. It's 6.67 to 1 from calcium to magnesium. I just use a 6 to 1 or 7 to 1. It's just much easier. So if I multiply 7 times 20, get 140. That's above calcium. So the magnesium you supplement with actually is calming that sympathetic nervous system. And believe it or not, you actually may need a little bit more or some CalMag complete along with that magnesium to calm the sympathetic nervous system. Now, that's on top of biofeedback, breath work, parasympathetic work, binaural beats, those types of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But the funny thing is that I don't feel stressed. I just have a busy life, but I'm not stressed about it, if that makes sense. You know?
Absolutely. Yes. But it still can mean, though, that the nervous system is pushing hard. That's all. Like you can love your life and enjoy your life, but still be kind of go, go, go internally as well.
Yeah, that I am definitely go, go, go.
Yeah. And if I'm looking just at your body type as well, you're more of the Vata Pitta body type. And so the nervous system, the metabolism is just going to be a little bit higher. That's not uncommon. And so when you know that, you say, okay, now I just need to balance my unique body type. And you can do that.
Okay.
And then in terms of sodium, potassium, the sodium, you're right. I mean, the sodium is 197. Ideal is about 18 to 35. And your potassium is at 12, and ideal is about 7 to 15. So it's about, when we look at the ideal ratios as well, we're looking at about a 2.5 to 1 ratio. If I multiply 12 by 2.5, I get about 30, and your sodium is 197. So it's quite high. Now, there's a hormone that is produced called aldosterone. And aldosterone typically is what balances sodium, potassium in the body. And again, with higher adrenal function, we typically see sodium higher. So for someone like you, magnesium, full spectrum magnesium we use. Now, you might have a great magnesium that you use. We use a product called Adrenal Soothe, 1 or 2 at lunch and 2 at dinner. What is that? There's no magic. Ashwagandha, phosphatidylserine, L-theanine, things that help calm the nervous system. And then we might use something like a sleep help support at night, some liquid melatonin, something like that that's non-groggy to really push you out of the sympathetic nervous system and back into the parasympathetic nervous system. So even if you have great energy during the day, this would just allow for deeper sleep, greater REM sleep, and recovery at night. I don't know if you track your REM and deep sleep right now. You do? Right?
Yep. Let's look at last night. Okay. So I have an Oura Ring. Have you heard of these?
Yeah, absolutely. And so on that, you want that 90 minutes of deep sleep and 2+ hours of REM for ideal recovery.
Okay. Deep sleep. Last night I have 144. REM is 135.
That's not bad at all. And if that REM is typically over 2 hours, you're doing great.
My deep sleep is often, a couple nights ago, it was 2.5 hours for REM, an hour 18 for deep. But the night after that, it was 220 of deep, an hour 39 of REM. So it flip-flopped, but I'm always in the 90s as far as the sleep score.
And that's fantastic. And think of this, deep sleep is recovery for the body, and REM sleep is recovery for the brain and the mind. So you need them both. They're just different in how they work. And so I'm assuming you go to bed on the earlier side.
Yeah. Yes.
People who go to bed on the earlier side typically always get more deep sleep, which is amazing. That's why, because the prime bedtime for most people is around 9:30 p.m. when cortisol is usually at its lowest. It's based on the season, but it's usually between 9 and 10 p.m.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Because I get up automatically like around 5. So a little after 5.
So do you go to bed around 9?
Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, so that's like, it's great. That works with your body. And we just needed then ease in the day. And so what we do after this is we'd say, okay, based on this test, if we really want to look at the adrenals, we want to look at a 24-hour cortisol. And so you would run a lab test called the stress, mood, and metabolism test. That's why this is a great first lab to run. And then it directs you, okay, where would we go after this?
Go next. I know something's up with my adrenals. I went to an energy doctor, and because I was having some irregular heartbeat, and he said, it's not your heart, it's your adrenal.
Well, keep in mind.
Me on ashwagandha. And so.
That's good that they knew that, because the adrenals can affect the heart because they can affect your electrolyte levels, your sodium, potassium. So, and they also can affect your muscle cramps with your calcium magnesium. And so that's why, you really continue to peel back the onion and ask why. Okay, why do I need more magnesium? Why do I need this? And this is really looking at the core of it. And some people are just more sympathetic nervous system dominant because of their dosha or their phenotype, however you want to look at it. And that's okay. Again, we just work with our natural phenotype and we bring it back into balance.
Cool. Well, I'm interested in that. I'm 57 and I am a go type person. So it's important to me to age stronger, and healthier. So what I need to work on, that's why I'm excited about learning about the test and what I need to do next. So
Absolutely.
then now are you on to heavy metals?
We have to look at one more ratio, and that's your copper to zinc.
Okay.
So this is probably about 1 out of 10 people, maybe 2 out of 10 maximum, but their copper level is higher than their zinc. And when this happens, it may not be happening to you, but it does, especially in children. It can lead to ADD, ADHD, learning or focus-based issues, allergy, and asthma, as well as more of the ASD-based spectrum. Because copper, when too high, is actually toxic to the body. And the nice thing is it's in balance with zinc. So all we need to do in terms of pushing down that copper, if there's no copper exposure. So sometimes it's not common, but women with a copper IUD will sometimes have higher copper. People using copper pans for cooking, not often, but sometimes have higher copper. So the other times it's just you're going through your zinc faster than your copper and you need more zinc. And for your body type and your active lifestyle, you most likely just need more zinc, up to 50 milligrams per day.
Oh, so my copper's higher than my zinc?
It is.
I'm one of the anomalies.
You are part of the 20%. Yes, not part of the 80%.
Okay. All right. I guess I need to boost my zinc.
You do. And you can do that through food sources, or you can do it through food and supplementation. That's up to you.
Okay. Will I be able to see this written report? Can you have your team email it to me, please? And will it have the suggestions on it?
It will not have the suggestions, but we can get you those. What it does is it's a PDF, and you're able to see the PDF. And then typically through health coaching, you'd meet with a health coach and they take you through the different recommendations. But we're doing it together. So obviously you have it here, but we can get you those. That's totally up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to order something. So, okay, cool.
Absolutely. Now, the last part is very interesting. And this is, if you don't do it for any other reason, and you're skeptical about everything else, please, you can't be skeptical about metals showing up in your hair. And so we test for lead. Luckily, almost never do we find lead. We test for cadmium and arsenic as well. Cadmium is very dangerous, as well as arsenic for the thyroid. And that's why, again, we want to test for those. Cadmium can be found in certain processed foods, arsenic even in rice-based products. But luckily, again, those aren't as common. The fourth one we test for is mercury. Probably 20% of people will show high on mercury, and you are one of those people. It's not very high. It's 3. Basically, there's 3 little ticks. It's a bar that goes up. You'll be able to see this, of course, when you get your report. And although it's not above the 0.15, I mean, we're talking small amounts, but there's no healthy amount of mercury to have in your body. That's what we tell people. And so now, luckily, it's not a very high amount. However, we want to remove that. The typical sources of mercury are mainly from fish, to be honest with you. Like, that's the main source. When I was 19, I first had this lab run. I had mercury levels off the charts. So talk about inflammation and brain-based issues. Well, a lot of it's from mercury. I was eating canned tuna fish almost every night, 5 out of 7 nights a week. And I was in college, and it was a cheap food. So I put that over rice, and there I go. So usually it's from swordfish, tuna, the larger fish. Do you eat a lot of the larger fish?
I eat tuna, salmon. Those are the big 2. I don't eat swordfish.
And salmon's low in mercury, just because, believe it or not, it's a vegetarian or vegan-based fish. So it doesn't eat other ones, so it doesn't build up over a lifetime. But the tuna is very high in mercury. And so What we do, though, is we don't say you can't ever eat tuna. It's probably once or twice a month maximum. And we do a heavy metal detox, natural one, to pull that out of your body naturally and without all the side effects. But there's one more that I have to share with you, and that's aluminum. This is the one that most people have higher levels on. Now, it's not as much of an issue below a 1. However, you're a 1.8. And so there's definitely aluminum exposure that you're getting somehow. It can be from unfiltered ice cubes. It can be from tap water. It can be from antiperspirants. It can be from aluminum foil. It can be from aluminum pans with aluminum spatula. All of those things are ways that you can get aluminum. And then sometimes, like, you might not have had any exposure to mercury or aluminum for a long time, but that doesn't mean it's ever been fully excreted from the body, because it can be from mercury amalgams in the mouth, like silver fillings. It could be from previous shots, if you know what I mean, in the past, that have mercury and other adjuncts to them. And so sometimes it's never been removed from the body properly. And so that's another reason to do a heavy metal detox.
So can you get aluminum from, like, okay, I just can't believe I thought of this. I love LaCroix water. It comes in an aluminum can.
Well, so yes, that can happen over time, but usually they coat the aluminum with, believe it or not, a PVC or plastic, so the aluminum doesn't break down. I know. Now, they don't all do this.
This is bad.
But if you think about it, it's an acidic-based beverage. It's not super acidic, but the only way then for the can not to break down is for them to coat it with something. Think of tomatoes. Tomatoes are natural. If you don't have a nightshade issue, tomatoes are healthy, but they're super low in pH when they're canned. And so they actually have to coat it. If not, and if it touches the lid, you'll see rust. It will literally break down the can. So it's possible, if you drink a lot from aluminum-based cans, that yes. And then there's another random one, which is people who used to have the Brita water filters. The mesh filter is made out of aluminum. And so it adds back aluminum to your water, even though it removes a lot of the other contaminants, which is very odd, but we do see that in our practice.
Yeah, I don't do any of the other. I don't have aluminum pans. I don't use aluminum foil. So it's got to be, the only thing I do is I drink that LaCroix water. So that's got to be it.
Well, an interesting test would be to do the heavy metal detox is only 6 to 8 weeks. It's vitamin C, cracked cell chlorella, liquid cilantro, and then a biofilm disruptor called fluorofilm, because heavy metals can, I don't know if you've done a show on this yet, but they can actually bind up in the biofilm. They can end up there to solidify it and keep the parasites and the bacteria actually from being harmed, believe it or not, when you're using parasitic-based protocols or candida or bacterial-based protocols. So there is always that possibility. What I'd like to do is let's eliminate it and then do a test where you're removing maybe that water. Maybe you're looking at a glass bottle one of a sparkling water. And then after 6 months, retest, see if it's gone down now substantially. And then what you can do from there, I always say, get a baseline. You have a baseline now. So then if you want to add that LaCroix water back in, then you retest another 6 months. You say, oh yeah, it is. It keeps going up with the LaCroix water. Okay, well, LaCroix water, I don't know. I'm not saying this about the company, but it may leach aluminum into the water.
Okay. Well, this is what we're going to do. Let's do the heavy metal test or the detox, because I removed the mercury from my mouth, years ago. I haven't had a shot in a very, very long time. So I want to get that crap out.
Yeah. And either way, it'll be good, because whether this is from years ago or whether it's recent, we're going to be able to remove it. And then regardless, it'll be low and you have your baseline now. And then a year from now, 5 years from now, that's why we run the big 5 annually. You can say, is my health, great, like optimal zone? Has it gotten worse, or has it even improved greater? And so that's what it's all about. It's, you don't have to, I always tell people, you do not need to fear getting older and getting a disease if you continue just to monitor your levels, because a healthy person does not get sick. It's when we start to get these imbalances, we overflow our rain barrel, which is toxicities, the exposures or deficiencies, just like you said with homocysteine. yeah, you may need a little bit more methylfolate and some methylcobalamin and some B6 and P5PB6 and some trimethylglycine, TMG. Great. And that fixes homocysteine, right? And so like, yeah, you might need a little bit more than the average individual.
My homocysteine was fine. I was just saying they wouldn't pay for the lab test. The insurance wouldn't cover it for me. But yeah, it turned out to be okay. But when that you just rattled off a lot of stuff. So you know what it takes to bring every little item into the proper level.
That's our job. Just like a medical doctor knows the pharmaceutical to give you to mask the symptoms of whatever disease you have. Our job, my job, literally, you can't pass your boards if you don't know what you're supposed to do. And so, and I'm very passionate about this because usually when you ask like who comes to see us, it's people that have already done a half a dozen to a dozen other things before. And they're just looking to take all the guesswork out and say, yeah, these are my deficiencies. These are my toxicities. This is what I need to do. And I can actually retest if I choose to. I mean, you'll feel better, but you can retest if you choose to, just to see that, yes, peace of mind, everything has been optimized.
This is awesome. So Dr. Cabral, where can people order these tests? How can they start on this journey with me?
So my main website is stephencabral.com. It's Stephen with a PH. My podcast, The Cabral Concept, is there. My book, The Rain Barrel Effect, is there. I like people to start with free, just education, understand this a bit more. We talked about a lot of things today. And then when they're ready, begin with something like the minerals and metals test or the starter kit or the big 5, because all of those labs come with a consultation as well. And why that's important is that you don't want to try to read these results on your own. You want, a certified integrative health practitioner or someone to be able to go over what they mean so that you're not worried, because there is no need to worry. Even though you had a little bit elevated mercury, a little bit elevated aluminum, a couple imbalanced ratios, all that's fixable. Like it's not the end of the world. And honestly, it's all fixable within 3 to 6 months maximum. That's the nice thing. And so we'll share all of that with you and then begin to help with that healing journey. But everything's at stephencabral.com and they can find it there.
And what's your book, The Rain Barrel Effect, about?
The Rain Barrel Effect is, I wrote that a few years ago when I had already been in private practice. I had done and overseen with a great team, hundreds of thousands of appointments. And I said, this is the 10 main reasons why people get sick, why they overflow the rain barrel. Heavy metals is one of them, right? So we went over that today. Digestive issues are another. So there's 10 main reasons. And then the second half of the book is how do you empty the rain barrel? So the rain barrel says you're filling up your rain barrel over the course of your years. My rain barrel overflowed at 17. For many other people, it's at 37 or 45, right? As they start to get to middle age, or maybe not till their 60s, but eventually it overflows if you're not watching it. So the overflow is the disease diagnosis, right? Rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, Addison's. But it begins to fill up, and that's the symptoms you feel first, though. So before I got that sick, I had swollen glands. I started to feel more tired. In sports, my times actually started to get worse as a junior in high school, which shouldn't happen. Like I peaked my sophomore year. That should never happen. And so I could have seen it coming. My sleep was worse. I had worse allergies. I had worse acne, but the drugs were masking it. The Prilosec I was taking for acid reflux, the amoxicillin I was taking, the Benadryl I was taking every day, the Sudafed I was taking. I was on a cocktail of over-the-counter and prescription drugs. And so my recommendation, I'm not telling you to stop your pharmaceuticals. What I'm saying is find the underlying root cause, because it only gets worse. It does not get better.
So what takeaways, besides like getting started to look deeper into like the labs, what types of takeaways would you have people get started on that most people probably aren't doing?
Sure. So that I forgot to mention
today to change their path,
to get people back on the right track, right?
Yeah, like a takeaway.
So I did not mention that the second half of the book is the protocol I use, and it's not just lab testing. So it's called the de-stress protocol, because you don't have to lab test if you don't want. So it's diet, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest, emotional balance, scientifically backed supplements, and the success mindset. We chatted about it a little bit earlier, but the reason why I mentioned that is that all of those you're doing on a daily basis anyways. And so my goal is to get people a little bit better in each one, but then they don't have to be perfect in any one. It's so hard to be perfect with your diet or perfect with your exercise, getting 30 minutes 5 days a week, or perfect with reducing stress. So what I look for is about that 80% rule. I try to get people right around there, 100% in one, maybe one is only 60 or 70%, right? You've got your sleep dialed in, but maybe, I don't know, stress isn't dialed in, or one of those, or toxicity, right? Because we've got the aluminum and the mercury. So we then have to dial that in. So that's what I look to do. And of course, like most people, I would say it always starts with food, and I would say with stress. And so we're going to work on those two first.
If you could just say like the top 3 things that you feel that most people will benefit, or just a couple things that most people would benefit from doing, like starting right now today.
Okay. So if you boil it all down and you're not going to do the lab testing, or you're not going to go really all in on specific protocols, the number one thing we recommend is actually a 21-day functional medicine detox. Now, it will look similar to incorporating intermittent fasting. It will look similar to doing low carb. It'll have a lot of those similarities. And the reason is that those really work. And so what you're doing is you're just supporting your liver to help to remove a lot of these plastics, excess estrogen, heavy metals, et cetera, from the body. You're opening up the pathways. And then at the same time, you're helping to rebalance estrogen levels. You're helping to rebalance inflammation levels, sleep, and so much more. So it's a kickoff. And then what you're doing is you're hopefully learning healthy eating strategies, because the goal is that we need to be able to rebalance stress and nutrition as our primary factors. If we get those two right, it's going to be so much easier to then even want to exercise or want to do sauna or other things, because you're just going to have more energy. You're going to have more drive, more ambition. You're going to want to do those things. So finding a good quality, healthy diet, right? Like those are out there. And you can even subscribe to almost any diet you want. But you're going to want to look for good quality whole foods that you're incorporating an intermittent fast and you're allowing your body to heal. So that's really the first place we get started with people.
I think I saw that on your website. Did I see that on your website, like a 21-day detox or something? Okay, cool. So they just need to go to the website and they can find that. And I feel like that's probably the best.
It dramatically empties your rain barrel, even if you don't know what is wrong with you. And because what it does is it focuses on the largest organ of the body, which is the liver, well, in terms of excretory, and it filters all of the blood in your body every 6 to 12 minutes. And all we're doing is we are supporting it with specific sulfur-based amino acids that you would get from like cruciferous vegetables, just a higher degree. And then all of your methylated B vitamins that we chatted about a little bit earlier, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And then your body knows how to do the rest. It knows how to heal. So is that going to get rid of parasites? Is it going to get rid of heavy metals? No, it's opening up the actual detox and drainage pathways. So everything you do after that is far more effective. That's why we start there.
Perfect. That's exciting. And that's just available on your website. They can get started right away, but they also have the book. I mean, to me, it's like, just go for the book. That seems like that has a lot of really good information as well. And it's free.
And I like the education part first, because then you always want to know the why before the how, because if you understand the why, you're going to do more and commit more, because you know why you're doing it. And you say, okay, now this is how I do it. But people will give up if they don't know what it's actually leading towards. And so that's what we like to do. It's all about education. And as you learn more and more, that's why we do a daily podcast. As you learn more and more, you start to up level your own knowledge. And then you say, okay, this is the next thing. Now this is the next thing. Because you don't have to get if you're not exercising right now, you don't need to do a Ironman triathlon, right? Like you need to start walking. And then after that, maybe some body weight based training. Then after that, like you can step up. You don't need to jump into a TRX or start pushing a sled, right away.
Right. Absolutely. Because then you'll just get burnt out for sure. So yeah, I think that's the best choice right now, is just to look at this book. And I didn't know your podcast was daily. That is awesome. Can you say the name of it again so that the listeners can hear?
It's called the Cabral Concept. They'll be able to find it on my website or iTunes, Spotify, etc. And the reason why it is daily is that it's just 15 minutes to 20 minutes teaching on one specific topic. And what I'm looking to do, and it's stephencabral.com/podcast, is a search bar. And there's over 2,600 shows. So basically you can search whatever it is that you're looking for. So I'm trying to create an audio and video now depository of answers that people can find right away on whatever issue that they may be suffering from.
Perfect. That's awesome. You are a wealth of knowledge. I am so happy to have you on the show today, Dr. Cabral. And I'm really looking forward to listening to your podcast.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much. If I can help in any way in the future, we'll certainly do that. And we'll have to look at those labs in another 6 months or so after you complete your protocols.
Yes, thank you. And I look forward to starting on that heavy metal detox. So if you could please ask them to send me a link so I can order it, I would appreciate that. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much for your time. You're awesome.
Thank
you. Okay, that was disturbing. I must say I had no idea. I think all of that tuna I have eaten has really caught up to me. And the aluminum cans, I really think it must be the LaCroix or something like that. So, but I'm going to do the heavy metal detox and then retest and see how it goes. So for complete show notes, head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. And you can visit Dr. Cabral's website at stephencabral.com. So it's stephencabral.com. Thank you so much for listening. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.